The moment you stop chasing is the moment they start wondering where you went. My friends, let's talk. Let's get real for a second, because I know you've been there, waiting, overthinking, checking your phone, wondering if maybe this time they'll text first. You've been hanging on to hope like it's a lifeline, convinced that if you just care a little more, try a little harder, they'll finally see your worth. Maybe you've even caught yourself sending that just checking in text, rehearsing every word, trying to sound casual when inside you're screaming for connection. And I know, folks, it feels like if you let go, you'll lose everything. That if you stop reaching out, if you stop showing how much you care, they'll just forget you like yesterday's news. That if you detach, you disappear. But let me drop something heavy on you right now. Detachment isn't loss, it's leverage. It's not about walking away empty-handed. It's about standing taller with your hands free. See, here's the truth no one tells you. The harder you hold on, the more you push them away. It's like gripping a bar of soap too tight. It slips right out of your hand. But when you loosen that grip, when you trust the process, that's when things settle. That's when they feel the shift. Imagine this for a second, my friends. Picture yourself standing in the middle of a field, holding a butterfly in your hands. The tighter you close your fingers, the more you crush its wings. But when you open your palms, when you give it space, that's when it stays. That's detachment, not closing off, not turning to stone, but opening up enough for life to flow naturally without forcing it to fit into your fists. And I know what your heart is whispering right now. But if I let go, what if they don't come back? That fear is the lie. The real trap is thinking that your worth depends on how much you give, how much you hold on. But here's the real deal, folks. The right people aren't lost by your absence. They're revealed by it. When you step back, you don't lose the ones meant for you. You lose the ones who were only there for what you were giving, not for who you are. Let me drop another quote on you. Your absence will teach them what your presence never could. Say that again in your heart. They can ignore your texts. They can overlook your efforts, but they can't unfeel your absence. When the noise stops, when the attention fades, they're left with the echo of everything you brought to the table. And that silence, that's louder than any message you could ever send. Now, my friends, let's be clear. This isn't about playing games. This isn't about acting cold, pretending you don't care, trying to win some battle of who can stay silent the longest. No, this is about reclaiming your power. This is about understanding that your peace is worth more than someone else's attention. Because when you detach, when you let go of chasing, you stop playing their game, and you start playing yours. You shift the energy. You stop feeding their ego, and suddenly they're left wondering where their fix went. That's the paradox, folks. The second you stop caring so much, that's when they start caring at all. And trust me, I get it. Detaching feels unnatural at first. It feels like stepping off a stage when the spotlight's still on. But you know what? That spotlight was never supposed to be on them. It was supposed to be on you. This is your stage, your show. And the audience? They can choose to watch or walk, but you keep performing for you. So here's your first step in this journey we're about to take together. Detach completely. Watch how fast they come back. Not because you chased, but because you stood still, because you held your value, because you stopped auditioning for a role you already own. Say it with me right now. I hold my value. Write it in the comments. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more reminders that you are enough, exactly as you are. Stay with me, my friends. We're just getting started. Number 1. The paradox of detachment. Why letting go pulls them closer. The tighter you hold on, the more everything slips away. My friends, lean in for a second, because we're about to crack open the truth that's been holding you back. You've been told, over and over again, that if you love harder, hold tighter, give more, they'll stay. That if you just show them how much you care, they'll finally see your worth. But let me ask you, and I want you to answer in your heart, how's that working out for you? How many times have you given everything only to feel like you've ended up with nothing? How many nights have you sat there, phone in hand, waiting, hoping, wondering, just needing some sign that they care back? And yet, the more you give, the more distant they become. The more you show up, the less they do. That's the paradox, folks. Letting go doesn't push them away. It pulls them closer. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you're standing on a beach. The sun is setting, and you scoop up a handful of sand. You clench your fist, holding it tight, thinking if you just grip hard enough, none of it will slip through. But what happens? The tighter you squeeze, the more the grains spill out between your fingers. Now picture this. You open your hand, palm relaxed, and the sand stays, resting gently in your hand. That's detachment. That's the difference between clinging out of fear and holding with grace, between grasping for control and trusting in your worth. But I know what some of you are thinking right now. If I let go, won't I lose them completely? That fear is loud, isn't it? That voice in your head that whispers, if I don't try harder, they'll forget me. They'll move on. And I get it. I've been there too. We've all been conditioned to believe that love is something we have to earn, that attention is something we have to fight for, that if we're not constantly proving ourselves, we'll be left behind. But let me tell you something that might just flip your whole world upside down. The right people aren't held by your grip. They're drawn to your space. When you stop trying to hold them so tightly, when you create room for them to move, to choose, to show up on their own, that's when the connection deepens. That's when they feel the pull. Because here's the truth about human nature, my friends. People are drawn to what feels free, not what feels forced. When you're always available, always chasing, always pouring out your energy, you become predictable. You become the background noise in their life. But when you step back, when you let go, you create space for them to lean in, space for curiosity, space for desire to bloom again. Let me hit you with this. What is chased runs faster. What is allowed space finds its way back. That's the law of emotional gravity. And I know this goes against everything you've been taught. You've been taught to fight for love, to prove yourself worthy. But love, real love, doesn't need to be fought for. It needs to be felt. It needs space to breathe. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Detaching feels like losing. It feels like giving up. It feels like you're walking away from something that matters. But that's the lie fear tells you. Fear says, if you stop chasing, you'll be forgotten. But freedom? Freedom says, if they forget you when you stop chasing, they were never really there for you in the first place. Let me give you another metaphor. Imagine you're hosting a party. You've been running around refilling everyone's drinks, making sure the snacks are topped up, checking in on every guest. You're exhausted, but you keep going because you think if you stop, the party will fall apart. But what if instead you sat down? What if you enjoyed the party too? The right guests would find their way to you. They'd sit with you, talk with you, share the moment. The wrong ones? They'd leave because they were only there for the free drinks. My friends, you don't have to run yourself ragged to keep people around. The right ones will come to you. And I know it's hard. I know it feels unnatural at first. You've been wired to believe that effort equals love, that doing more means being worthy. But let me flip that script. Your worth isn't measured by how much you give. It's measured by how much you hold for yourself. And detachment? Detachment is holding space for yourself. Detachment is saying, I trust that what's meant for me will not miss me. Detachment is the open hand, not the clenched fist. And when you make that shift, something magical happens. They feel it. They feel the space where your over-effort used to be. They feel the gap where your constant attention once stood. And that space calls to them. It makes them wonder. It makes them realize. Because people don't miss what's always there. They miss what suddenly isn't. So let me hit you with one more truth bomb before we wrap this up. Letting go isn't losing. It's creating room for what's real. And my friends, that's where your power is. Not in the grasping, not in the chasing, but in the letting go. Say it with me right now. I let go and life flows back to me. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you trust in your worth. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more of these reminders that you're enough. Stay with me, my friends, because what's coming next? Oh, we're about to get into why standing still is the most powerful move you can make. Don't go anywhere. Number 2. Over-attachment is emotional chasing. Stop running. Stand still. The more you chase, the faster they run. My friends, let's talk about the chase. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That feeling in your chest when they pull away just a little and you rush to close the gap. That urge to send a text, check in, remind them you're there. You feel it, don't you? The anxiety, the fear that if you don't make a move, they'll forget you. You tell yourself, maybe they're just busy. Maybe I should reach out first. Maybe they need a little nudge to remember how much I care. But let me ask you something that might sting a little. How many times has that worked out the way you hoped? Because here's the hard truth, folks. Chasing doesn't bring them closer. It pushes them further away. Imagine this. Picture yourself in a field, and there's someone standing just ahead of you. Every time you take a step forward, they take a step back. You walk faster. They move faster. You start running, thinking if you just get close enough, they'll stop, turn around and embrace you. But the faster you run, the faster they flee. You're not closing the distance, you're widening it. That, my friends, is over-attachment. That is emotional chasing. And it wears you out. It leaves you breathless, exhausted, wondering why you're always the one running. But the question that's probably screaming in your mind right now is this. If I don't chase, won't they leave? And I get it. That fear is real. It's loud. It tells you that your effort is the glue holding this thing together. That, if you stop reaching, everything will fall apart. But let me break that lie right now. If your chasing is the only thing keeping them close, they're not really there. They're not connected to you. They're attached to the comfort of knowing you'll always be the one doing the work. Let me hit you with this. Chasing validates their ego, not your value. Say that again to yourself. Every time you run after them, you're feeding their sense of control. You're telling them, I need you more than you need me. And oh, they feel it. They feel the power shift. They know you'll text first, apologize first, break the silence first. And what do they give you in return? Just enough to keep you chasing, just enough to keep you hooked, but never enough to feel secure, never enough to feel valued. It's a game, one you're playing on their field, by their rules. Let me give you a metaphor that'll stick with you. Imagine a dog chasing a car. The car speeds up, the dog runs harder, barking, panting, doing everything it can to catch it. But here's the thing, the car never stops. And if by some miracle the dog caught up, the car wouldn't suddenly become its friend. The chase was never about connection. It was about movement, about ego, about feeling like you're doing something. But it leaves you empty, tired, alone. And I know, my friends, this isn't easy to hear. You've been taught that love means effort, that relationships take work, that if you just show them enough love, they'll come around. But here's what I need you to understand. Love doesn't require a chase. Respect doesn't need to be begged for. The right person doesn't run away when you stop running after them. They meet you where you stand. That's why, my friends, the most powerful move you can make is to stop running. Stand still. Let them feel the space. Let them feel the absence of your effort. And trust me, they will feel it. Because when you stop chasing, when you stop feeding their ego, the game changes. They're left with their own reflection, their own lack of effort. And if they care, if there's something real there, they'll feel the shift. They'll move toward you. But if they don't, then you've saved yourself from years of running after someone who was never planning to stop. And I know what you're thinking, but standing still feels like giving up. It feels like I'm losing. But let me flip that for you. Standing still isn't giving up. It's standing in your worth. It's saying, I don't need to chase for love. I am love. It's reclaiming your energy, your peace, your power. Because the truth is, my friends, when you stand still, the right people come to you. Let me leave you with this. Those who are meant for you will never need to be chased. They'll match your pace. And that, my friends, is what you deserve. Not someone who needs to be convinced. Not someone who only values you when you're running yourself into the ground. You deserve someone who meets you eye to eye, heart to heart, without the chase. So say it with me right now. I stand still in my worth. Write it in the comments. Show them, show yourself. Show the world that you're done running for someone else's comfort. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more of these reminders that you're enough. Stay with me, my friends, because next, we're about to dive into the power of absence and why your silence speaks louder than any words ever could. You don't want to miss it. Number 3. The power of absence. Why distance speaks louder than words. Presence is easy to ignore, but absence echoes. My friends, let's talk about the power of stepping back, about the weight of your absence, because I know what you've been taught. You've been told to always show up, always explain, always make the effort. You've been told that being present, being available, being there will somehow prove your worth. But let me ask you, how many times have you poured yourself into someone only to feel invisible? How many times have you sent that one last message, trying to keep the connection alive, and been met with silence on the other end? Here's the truth. No one tells you. Your presence becomes background noise when you give it too freely. But your absence hits different. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a quiet room, and on the wall there's a clock ticking, steady, constant, tick-tock, tick-tock. At first you hear it. It's loud, clear, impossible to ignore. But after a while you stop noticing it. The sound fades into the background. It's always there, always steady, so you tune it out. Now imagine one day that ticking just stops. Dead silence. Suddenly, that quiet room feels loud. You notice the absence more than you ever noticed the sound. That's the power of absence, my friends. That's what happens when you step back, when you stop explaining, when you stop filling the space with words, effort, attention. They feel it. But I know the questions that rise up in your heart. If I go silent, won't they think I don't care? If I pull back, won't they just move on? That fear is loud, isn't it? It makes you believe that if you're not constantly showing up, you'll be forgotten. But here's the hard truth. If your presence has to be loud to be noticed, they've already stopped listening. And that's why silence is your greatest power. It forces them to listen differently. Let me hit you with this. Silence isn't empty, it's full of answers. Because when you pull back, when you stop reaching out, when you create distance, they're left alone with their thoughts. No more distractions, no more comfort. Just the echo of everything you gave that they took for granted. And that silence, that's when reflection happens. That's when the fear of loss creeps in. Because people don't fear what's always there. They fear what's suddenly missing. Let me give you another metaphor that'll drive this home. Imagine you've been walking through a forest every day, taking the same path, passing the same tree that always offers shade. You stop noticing it after a while. It's just part of the scenery. But then one day, that tree is gone, uprooted, missing. Suddenly, you feel the heat of the sun where there used to be cool shade. You miss what was always there, but now it's too late. That, my friends, is what your absence feels like when you stop showing up for people who took you for granted. But I know this is hard. Silence feels like surrender. It feels like giving up. You've been conditioned to think that if you're not explaining yourself, if you're not reaching out, you're somehow losing. But let me flip that script. Silence isn't giving up. It's standing up. It's standing up for your worth. It's standing up for your peace. It's standing up for the truth that you don't have to beg to be understood. That if they couldn't hear you when you were speaking, they'll have to feel you when you're silent. And yes, it feels uncomfortable at first, especially if you're used to being the fixer, the peacekeeper, the one who always smooths things over. But here's what I need you to hear. You don't have to fill every silence. Sometimes the space you leave says everything. Let me leave you with this. Absence isn't punishment. It's presence in a different form. When you pull back, you're not being cruel. You're not playing games. You're reminding them of your value. You're giving them the space to realize what they've been taking for granted. And trust me, they will feel it. So say it with me right now, my friends. My absence has weight. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you're no longer afraid of creating space, that you understand the power of stepping back. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more of these reminders that you are enough, with or without the noise. Stay with me, because next, we're going to talk about the real magnet in all of this, your energy, and how pulling it back shifts everything. Stick around, my friends. Number 4. Your energy is the real magnet. Withdraw it. Watch the shift. Your energy is the sun. They only notice it when it sets. My friends, let's get into something deeper. We've talked about stepping back, about silence, about distance, but now we talk about the real game changer, your energy. Because here's the truth, it's not your words, your actions, or even your absence alone that shifts the dynamic. It's your energy. It's the vibe, the current, the presence you bring into every interaction, whether you say a word or not. And let me tell you something that might shake you a bit. They don't miss you because of what you said or did. They miss the energy you carried, the light you brought. Think about it like this. Picture the sun. Every morning it rises, warm, bright, constant. People go about their day without thinking much about it. They assume it'll always be there. But when the sun sets, when darkness creeps in, oh, that's when they notice. That's when the absence becomes real. That's when the chill hits. The same warmth they took for granted becomes the very thing they miss. That's your energy, my friends. You are the sun. When you withdraw your light, your warmth, your vibe, it's felt. It's undeniable. But here's where it gets tricky. We're not just talking about pulling back physically, not just about fewer texts, fewer calls. No, we're talking about pulling back energetically, because some of you have stepped back in action, but your mind, your thoughts, your heart, they're still all in, still overthinking, still worrying, still hoping, still playing out scenarios. You might have stopped texting, but you're still sending energy their way every time you check their social media, every time you sit there wondering, what are they doing right now? That's the current they still feel. That's the energy that keeps them knowing you're still around, even in silence. Let me hit you with this. Energy doesn't lie. You can say nothing at all, and yet your energy will still speak volumes. It's like trying to turn off the stove, but leaving the burner on low. It still radiates heat. They feel it, even when you think you've gone cold. That's why pulling back physically isn't enough. You've got to pull back energetically. Your thoughts, your focus, your heart. That's where the shift happens. Let me give you a metaphor that hits home. Imagine there's a radio tower sending out a signal. As long as that signal is strong, anyone nearby can tune in, pick up the frequency, feel connected. But what happens when the tower goes silent? No signal, no frequency. Suddenly, there's static. Suddenly, there's space. That's what happens when you pull your energy back. When you stop sending out those invisible signals, they feel the static. They feel the loss of connection. That's the shift. And I know, my friends, this isn't easy. It feels unnatural, like you're abandoning something, like you're closing your heart. But hear me, pulling back your energy isn't closing your heart. It's protecting it. It's reclaiming the power you've been giving away freely, maybe without even knowing it. Because the truth is, you've been radiating for someone who's been soaking up your light without giving any back. They've been basking in your warmth, assuming the sun will always rise for them. But what happens when the sun sets? When you let the night fall? That's when the realization hits. That's when they feel the cold. That's when they notice what they took for granted, because your energy was the real gift all along. But here's the kicker. They don't get to feel that shift if you're still radiating in secret. If you're still thinking about them, still wondering, still checking, still holding space for them in your mind. They still feel that. They still pick up on that signal. So this is where the work gets real. This is where you pull back not just your actions, but your attention. You redirect your thoughts. You focus on you. You become the sun setting, not in bitterness, not in anger, but in grace. Because you know your energy is the real magnet. Let me drop another truth on you. Where your attention goes, your energy flows. And my friends, it's time to bring that energy back home, back to you. You've been giving too much to people who haven't earned it, who haven't matched it, who haven't appreciated the light you've brought into their life. And the second you pull that back, they feel it. They notice the darkness where your light used to shine. So here's your moment. Here's your shift. Withdraw your energy and watch what happens. Not because you're playing games, but because you've realized your energy isn't free. It's sacred, it's powerful, and it deserves to be valued. Say it with me right now, my friends. I am the source. They feel my absence. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you understand the power you carry. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more reminders that your energy is magnetic. And stay with me, my friends, because next, we're diving into the currency of attention and why they crave it even more than love. You won't want to miss it. Number 5. Attention is currency. Stop spending it on credit. They're not addicted to you. They're addicted to your attention. My friends, it's time we talk about something real, something most people ignore, because, let's be honest, it's easier to keep giving than to admit when you're being taken for granted. We're talking about attention, that little text, that just checking in, that double tap on their story, that smiley face reply even when they gave you a dry K. Those little moments you think mean nothing? Oh, they mean everything. To them. Let me say this loud and clear. Attention is a currency, and too many of you are out here spending it like it's monopoly money. You're handing out your time, your focus, your energy like free samples at a grocery store, hoping someone will eventually see your worth. But here's the cold truth, folks. They already do see your worth. They just know you don't. And that's why they keep showing up with empty hands, expecting you to keep paying the emotional bill. Now, let me bring back a metaphor we touched on before, because it hits hard every single time. Picture this. You're running a cafe, and every day someone walks in. They don't buy anything. They don't commit to a meal. They just sit down, sip your free water, nibble on your complimentary cookies, enjoy the atmosphere. And you keep serving them, day after day, hoping that maybe today they'll finally place a real order. But they never do. Why would they? They're getting all the benefits without investing a dime. And you, my friend, you're covering the cost with your attention. That's what emotional credit looks like. You keep giving, they keep taking, no return, no investment, no reciprocity, just withdrawal after withdrawal, and your heart ends up emotionally bankrupt. Let me ask you this. If someone borrowed money from you every day and never paid it back, would you keep lending it out? No. Then why are you doing it with your attention? Because here's what's really happening. You're not loving them. You're feeding them, feeding their ego, feeding their sense of power. And just like any addict, they don't come back for you. They come back for the feeling your attention gives them. That hit of dopamine when your name lights up their phone. That rush when they know you're watching their stories. That reassurance that no matter how they treat you, you'll still show up. But attention, real attention, is an investment. It's value. It's time you'll never get back. And if they're not investing back, It's time to pull the plug. Now, I know what you're thinking, but if I stop giving attention, won't they think I don't care? That thought right there, that's fear talking. That's the voice of someone who's been taught that their love has to be loud to be felt. But let me flip that script. Your silence doesn't say you don't care. It says you value your attention too much to waste it. It says, I'm no longer giving for free what you haven't earned. Let me drop this on you. What's given too easily is rarely valued deeply. And that's why when you start pulling your attention back, strategically, intentionally, with purpose, they feel the shift. They notice. Suddenly, the free samples stop coming. Suddenly, they realize they've been dining for free at a table they were never willing to help set. And here's the best part. You're not doing it to make them chase you. You're doing it to choose you. You're reclaiming your energy. You're treating your attention like the rare currency it is. You're no longer handing out emotional cash to people who won't even give you loose change in return. Let me give you one more metaphor. Imagine you're a lighthouse, strong, grounded, radiant. Ships depend on your light to find their way, but you don't go chasing after ships. You don't light up for every boat that passes by. You shine because it's who you are, and the ships that value your light, they'll adjust their course to meet you. You are the light. Your attention is the beam. Use it wisely. So here's the shift. Stop spending your attention on emotional credit. Stop giving to those who aren't giving back. Stop being the emotional dealer for someone else's ego fix. Say it with me right now, my friends. I give attention with intention. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that your energy isn't a free trial. It's a premium subscription. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more reminders that you are the source, not the seeker. And stay with me, because next we're talking about the silence that speaks louder than anything you could ever say. It's about to get powerful. You don't want to miss it. Number 6. Ego versus heart. What they really miss when you detach. It's not your love they miss. It's the control they had over it. My friends, this is where it gets uncomfortable. This is where the truth stings before it sets you free. Because I know what happens when you finally pull back. When you stop chasing. When you go silent. Suddenly they pop back up, don't they? That text out of nowhere. That, hey, just thinking about you. And for a second, just a second, you wonder, do they miss me? Are they finally realizing my worth? But here's the truth bomb you need to hear. It's not you they miss. It's their power over you. Let that sink in. They don't miss the real, whole you. They miss the version of you that bent over backward. The version that apologized first. The version that over-explained, over-gave, over-loved. The version that ran toward them every time they pulled away. That's what they're craving, my friends. The power, not the connection. Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine a puppeteer holding strings. As long as those strings are tight, the puppeteer feels in control. They lift an arm, you move. They pull a string, you react. That's been the dance. But what happens when you cut the strings? When you stop reacting? The puppeteer is left holding nothing. That's the panic they feel when you detach. Not the loss of love, but the loss of control. And I know that feels harsh. You want to believe it's love that pulls them back in. You want to believe they finally see what they're missing. But, my friends, love doesn't crave control. Ego does. The ego feeds on the reassurance that you'll always be there, that you'll always respond, that you'll always explain yourself. But when you stop playing, when you cut the strings, the ego feels the void, and it hates it. Here's the thing. The heart wants connection. It wants partnership. It wants mutual respect. But the ego wants the upper hand. And when you detach, when you reclaim your power, the ego loses its grip. That's why they reach back out, not because they're ready to love you right, but because their ego can't handle losing the game. Let me hit you with this. Ego panics when it loses control. The heart stays calm when it knows the truth. And your heart, it's been screaming for peace. It's been begging you to stop playing tug-of-war with someone who only pulls when you pull first. So this is where you break free. This is where you recognize the difference between love and ego games. This is where you stop dancing for someone else's comfort. Say it with me right now, my friends. I am free from ego games. Write it in the comments. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world that you've cut the strings. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more reminders that your peace is your power. Stay with me, because next we're unlocking the secret to attraction that most people overlook, the magnetic pull of mystery. Stick around. Number 7. The Stoic comeback. Detach, level up, and let them notice. Detach not to make them miss you, but to remind yourself who you are without them. My friends, this is it. This is the moment where everything shifts, because I know what's been driving you. Deep down, behind the overthinking, behind the overcaring, there's been this little voice whispering, if I just pull back, maybe they'll finally notice. Maybe they'll miss me. Maybe they'll come back. But let me give it to you straight. The Stoic comeback isn't about making them notice. It's about making you notice yourself again. Let me paint this for you. Picture yourself at the bottom of a mountain. Down there, it's crowded, noisy, full of distractions, low-energy interactions. People who half show up, who half love, who drain your light and give nothing back. That's the valley, my friends. And you've been stuck down there, tangled up in proving your worth to people who were never even climbing with you. But here's the thing about mountains. They aren't climbed by accident. You've got to choose to rise. Detachment, that's your climb. Every step you take away from chasing, from over-explaining, from performing for someone else's validation, that's you rising, higher, stronger, freer. And yes, as you climb, the air gets thinner. The noise fades. Fewer people can follow. Not everyone is built for the altitude where peace lives. But that's not your concern anymore. You're not climbing for them. You're climbing for you. Let me hit you with this. Detachment isn't walking away from them. It's walking back to yourself. You've spent enough time pouring out your energy trying to be chosen. But guess what? You've always been the prize. You just forgot because you were too busy proving. And proving is exhausting. It's standing on a stage, performing, hoping the applause will fill the emptiness inside. But detachment is stepping off that stage, walking out of the spotlight and realizing the whole damn show was yours all along. And here's the paradox. When you stop proving, when you stop performing, that's when they start noticing. Not because you forced them to, but because you're no longer feeding their ego. You're no longer giving them the energy they took for granted. They feel the shift. They feel the silence. They feel the space where your light used to shine on them. But by then, you've climbed higher. You've leveled up. You've built a life so full, so rich, that their notice doesn't even move you anymore. Let me give you one last metaphor. Imagine a bird flying higher and higher, leaving the ground behind. The people below, they might eventually look up and notice the bird's no longer perched where they left it. But by the time they look, the bird's soaring, free, out of reach. That's your comeback, my friends. Not crawling back, not proving, but rising so high they have no choice but to look up and realize they no longer have access to you. Say it with me now. I choose peace over proving. Write it in the comments. Show them, show yourself. Show the world that you are done begging for space. You are creating it. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more of these reminders that your peace is power. Stay with me, because this is just the beginning of your climb. So, my friends, as we wrap this up, remember this. Detachment isn't about losing them. It's about finding you. It's about rising higher, reclaiming your peace, and letting your absence speak louder than your presence ever could. You're not here to prove your worth. You're here to own it. If this hit home, if it sparked something in you, drop your affirmation in the comments. I choose me. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe for more reminders that you are enough. Stay strong, stay grounded, and keep climbing.